We recently did a poll on here about driver aids as to whether you keep them all on, some of them on, turn some of them off, or turn them all off. And I must admit, I was a little surprised at the responses that I got from this. Now, we're talking about driver aids such as stop start, speed warnings, lane assist, assisted braking, collision sense protection systems or anti-accident systems that cars have now, adaptive cruise control, auto dimming lights, and rain sensing wipers. There's obviously lots of other driver aids out there like ABS, stability control, that sort of thing, but for most drivers they're fairly essential functions. They certainly have a very beneficial effect on road safety and on your safety as you drive the car. Most people wouldn't turn those particular aids off or even get a car without them. The fact is that we pay more for cars now than we've ever done in history. Prices of everything has gone up. We're dealing with inflation. Price increases are certainly nothing new, but manufacturers are trying to continually innovate. They're adding more and more gadgets to our car. Eventually, the aim is probably to replace us as a driver and have a car that is completely autonomous and takes care of everything itself. And part of the halfway house is getting a car with all these safety systems that take over when things go wrong or nudge the driver in the right direction. Speed warning is kind of sensible. It's nice to know what the prevailing speed limit is. And as a responsible YouTuber, I'd never exceed the posted speed limits. Let me know if you've been known to creep over the speed limits occasionally. But the speed assist warnings are just inaccurate. I would say, in my experience, about 80 to 90% of the time they get it right, but around about 20% of the time they get it completely wrong. And that results in a distraction for you as a driver. You're not breaking the law, you're not speeding, but your car is just pinged up a little warning to say that you are. And if you're one of the unfortunate ones, the car is actually working actively to reduce the speed of the car down to the speed limit. And it's either got out-of-date information, it's misread a road sign. The common situation is you're on a main road and it just reads a sign off a road that's running parallel and interprets that as applying to the road that you're on. Or I guess it could be someone with a t-shirt that's got a speed limit sign on. A few drivers said that they really enjoyed the speed limit warning, that it was useful to them. That also goes along with the blind spot warning, where the mirror will just indicate to you that there is someone in your blind spot. Adaptive cruise control, a lot of people are big fans of this. It takes a lot of the fatigue and stress out of driving long distances. Adaptive cruise control has come a long way. I'm not going to slate adaptive cruise control. I do fall into the camp of saying that drivers should be real drivers. They should be controlling every aspect of the car and not relying on technology to do this. And a lot of people have mentioned start-stop. They find it really annoying. Although it's come a long way, the stop-start feature doesn't leave you stranded for very long at all. In a split second, the car auto starts and you're ready to move off. It shouldn't really be that much of an inconvenience, unless obviously you're getting some sort of battery degradation issues. Lane assist is one of those things that drives most people absolutely crazy. The concept is it keeps your car within the lane. Now, what happens to most drivers is they try to move to the edge of the lane or out of the lane, usually to avoid a pothole or something on the inside, and they're continually fighting with the car that's trying to push them back into the correct position where the wheels are going to come into contact with the potholes and potentially cause damage to the car and certainly create a very rough ride. It's not surprising then that that is probably one of the most turned off features. A few people have said that lane assist is downright dangerous, which I have to agree with, having driven a car with it on our narrow country lanes. On motorways where things are a bit more leisurely, you don't have the problem with potholes cropping up very often at all. It makes a bit more sense. It's a safety thing there. If you're driving long distances, you may not be concentrating as hard as you should, and that can just keep the car in the correct lane. Auto braking drives a lot of drivers crazy as well. This is where the car detects obstacles and it starts braking, or it takes your braking force and amplifies it 1,000,000 times, and that can create a really rough stop. The problem that I have with a lot of these systems is when you get into a car that don't have these systems, your brain and body and driving abilities have adjusted to those systems. And if they're not there, you're potentially going to be in a situation where you're not braking hard enough because you were used to the car going full bore on its stop because it thought that you were doing an emergency stop. There's also auto braking where it detects an obstacle, and a few people have commented that due to obstacles, bags flying across the road, or even birds flying across the road, the car has gone on to a full-on emergency stop, and that's either caused an accident or it's had a near miss where the car behind has almost gone into the back of them. We weren't going to mention traction control and stability control as part of this poll, but a few drivers have mentioned it, and the general mood is that sometimes it's quite useful and other times it's really annoying. It gets in the way of enjoying a drive, or if you're driving in adverse conditions, it can be a little bit overprotective and make the going much tougher than it should be. One guy mentioned hill assist being particularly useful. A lot of modern cars do come with hill assist, but if you're driving a manual car and you roll back on a hill, you really need to brush up on your driving skills. It's not a major technique to avoid rolling backwards on a hill. And the cars that I've driven with hill assist, there seems to be a bit of a delay in getting the brake to disengage. You can never pull away as swiftly and smartly as maybe you can with the manual handbrake. Another frustration that drivers have with all these systems is the sheer length of time it takes to turn them off. Where you used to have buttons on the dashboard to control the major functions, there's so many functions now, it's usually hidden behind a menu system on a screen somewhere, and you need to navigate the menu options. And before you can even do that, you've got to wait for the car's driver control computer to boot up and fire up all of these systems, so they're then ready for you to turn them off. And they don't remember your offsetting. Every time you get into the car, they reset, and you've got to go through this procedure of turning them all off again. So I guess that's progress. What were the results of the poll? We had over 500 respondents, so thank you so much for everyone that responded to that quick poll that we did. I'm going to keep the poll open as well because it'll be interesting to see future people's comments and suggestions, probably on the strength of this video. The first option at the top was to keep them all on, keep all of the driver aids switched on at all times, and only 11% of people responded to say that applied to them. Now, the next option was to turn a few off but keep many of these driver aids on, and only 14% of respondents agreed that that applied to them. That was the decision that they make when they get in their car. Now, the next option was to turn most off but keep a few on, and that is the most popular response that we got. 39% of respondents agreed with that statement, which actually leaves 36% of respondents saying that they would turn them all off. As a result of the poll then, 25% of our viewers that responded to that poll agreed that they wanted some aspects of these safety features, but 75% didn't. They were against most, if not all, of these safety features. Going through the comments, it's quite revealing as to what people think of these things, and a lot of people have actually specifically chosen a car that don't have all of these gadgets, all these features, all these driver assistance features on. We have to ask ourselves the question though, are we needlessly paying for all of this technology that sounds good on paper, but in the real world is nothing more than a frustration and an annoyance? Please let me know in the comments what you think about all these different driver aids. If there's a driver aid that you feel we should be discussing that really winds you up, or you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, let us know in the comments. Let's get to the bottom of the question as to whether this technology is needless and just adding expense, or whether it does have a place in a modern motor car. Thanks for watching. Please boot the like button. That really does help us to get out there. Subscribe to the channel. We'd hate you to miss out on all the great content we've got planned. And talking of great content, you'll love this video, and this playlist has got some really good stuff in it for you. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.